For all of human history, the top of our planet has been a frozen, impenetrable wasteland, a fortress of ice that kept empires apart. But right now, that fortress is melting. And what is being revealed underneath is sparking the most dangerous geopolitical gold rush of the 21st century. As the Arctic ice melts, a brand new global shipping lane is opening up, one that cuts travel time between Asia and Europe in half, completely bypassing vulnerable choke points like the Suez Canal and the Red Sea. Russia is building a massive fleet of nuclear icebreakers to control it, while China is declaring itself a near-Arctic state. It's a gold rush for untouched resources and strategic dominance. This isn't a battle over territory. It's a battle over the future of the global economy. Trillions of dollars in undiscovered oil, natural gas, and the rare earth minerals required to build modern militaries are suddenly up for grabs. But this new frontier is not empty. Secret military bases that have been abandoned since the Cold War are being rapidly rebuilt. Advanced underwater listening devices are being dropped into the freezing abyss. NATO is scrambling to defend its northern flank. The ice is vanishing. The race has begun. And whoever controls the top of the world will dictate the balance of power for the next 100 years. To understand why the world's superpowers are suddenly obsessed with the Arctic, you have to look at the map from a perspective you aren't used to. Look at the Earth from the top down. From this angle, you realize something profound. Russia, North America, and Europe are actually incredibly close neighbors, separated only by the Arctic Ocean. For centuries, this ocean was a natural shield. The sea ice was so thick, so treacherous, that it was entirely unnavigable for commercial or military fleets. It was a dead zone. But over the last 4 decades, the Arctic has been warming at nearly 4 times the rate of the rest of the planet. The permanent summer sea ice is vanishing, and with the disappearance of the ice comes the appearance of the Northern Sea Route. Historically, if a cargo ship wanted to travel from Shanghai to Western Europe, it had to take the southern route. It had to navigate the congested Strait of Malacca, cross the Indian Ocean, pass through the pirate-infested waters of the Red Sea, and squeeze through the Suez Canal. It is a journey of roughly 12,000 nautical miles that takes about 35 days. But the Northern Sea Route changes everything. By sailing straight up over the top of Russia, that exact same journey is reduced to just 8,000 nautical miles. It cuts transit time down by over a week. It burns vastly less fuel. And most importantly for global superpowers, it completely bypasses the geographic choke points controlled by Western navies. But shipping is just the surface. Underneath the melting ice lies a staggering treasure trove. The United States Geological Survey estimates that the Arctic Circle holds roughly 90 billion barrels of undiscovered oil and 670 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. That is 22% of the world's undiscovered fossil fuels. Beyond energy, the receding ice in places like Greenland is exposing massive veins of rare earth minerals, the critical components required to manufacture everything from smartphones and electric vehicle batteries to AI microchips and stealth fighter jets. For centuries, the Arctic was a frozen vault. Now the vault is wide open, but there are no clear rules on who gets to take what's inside. And one nation has decided they are going to claim the lion's share before anyone else can stop them. Russia controls more than half of the entire Arctic coastline. And Vladimir Putin has made it clear. The Arctic is Russia's economic salvation and its ultimate military stronghold. Because the Northern Sea Route hugs the Russian coast, Moscow claims that these are internal waters. They demand that any foreign vessel passing through must pay a toll, use a Russian pilot, and submit to Russian inspections. If you refuse, you face the Northern Fleet. Russia understands that in the Arctic, the nation with the biggest ships wins. And nobody builds ships like Russia. They operate the world's only fleet of nuclear-powered icebreakers. These are absolute leviathans of the sea. Powered by dual nuclear reactors, ships like the Arctica and the Sibir can smash through ice up to 9 feet thick at a continuous speed. They don't need to refuel for years. While the United States struggles to maintain just 2 aging, conventionally powered icebreakers, Russia operates over 40, with more nuclear-powered behemoths currently under construction. They are quite literally carving their own highways into the ice. But Russia isn't just building ships, they are building fortresses. Over the past decade, Russia has engaged in the largest military buildup in the Arctic since the fall of the Soviet Union. They have refurbished dozens of abandoned Cold War-era military bases. They have constructed entirely new, high-tech installations like the Arctic Trefoil Base, a futuristic self-contained military complex painted in stark red, white, and blue camouflage, situated on an island so far north, it feels like another planet. From these bases, Russia has deployed advanced S-400 anti-aircraft missile systems, coastal defense cruise missiles, and radar jamming arrays. They are creating an anti-access/area denial bubble over the entire region. They are ensuring that if a global conflict breaks out, the northern sea route becomes an impenetrable Russian lake. And as the war in Ukraine has isolated Russia from Western economies, their reliance on the Arctic has become existential. They need the resources, and they need the revenue from the shipping lane, but they don't have the technology or the financial capital to develop it alone anymore. So they have turned to the only superpower capable of funding their Arctic empire, a country that doesn't even have a border within 900 miles of the Arctic Circle. In 2018, the Chinese government released a white paper that shocked the geopolitical world. In it, Beijing officially declared China to be a near-Arctic state. It was a brilliant, audacious diplomatic maneuver. China argued that because climate change in the Arctic directly affects their agricultural seasons and coastal flooding, they have a fundamental right to participate in the governance and the exploitation of the Arctic. They announced the creation of the Polar Silk Road, a massive northern extension of their trillion-dollar Belt and Road Initiative. For China, the Arctic solves their biggest strategic nightmare, the Malacca Dilemma. Currently, the vast majority of China's imported oil and exported goods must pass through the Strait of Malacca in Southeast Asia. If a war breaks out, the United States Navy could easily blockade that strait, starving China of energy in weeks. The Polar Silk Road bypasses the U.S. Navy entirely. By partnering with Russia, China gains access to an untouchable supply chain route. In exchange, China is pouring tens of billions of dollars into Russian Arctic infrastructure. They are funding massive liquefied natural gas projects. They are building deep-water ports. But Western intelligence agencies warn that China's ambitions go far beyond commerce. They point to a strategy known as civil-military fusion. In China, there is no separation between commercial companies and the military. China has been aggressively deploying scientific research vessels to the Arctic. But these ships are doing more than measuring ice thickness. They are mapping the deep ocean floor. They are testing the salinity and acoustic properties of the water, data that is absolutely critical for deploying and hiding nuclear submarines. Recently, China's Polar Research Institute announced plans to deploy a large-scale network of underwater listening devices in the Arctic Ocean. They claim it is for environmental monitoring. The Pentagon suspects it is an acoustic tripwire system designed to track American and NATO submarines operating under the ice. Furthermore, Chinese state-owned enterprises have attempted to buy up massive tracts of land in NATO-aligned territories. They tried to buy an abandoned naval base in Greenland. They tried to buy an airport in northern Finland, right next to Europe's largest artillery testing range. In almost every case, Western governments had to step in at the last minute and block the sales, citing extreme national security risks. The invisible threat is no longer invisible. The West has suddenly woken up to the fact that they are losing the race for the top of the world. The realization that the Russia-China alliance is attempting to lock down the Arctic has triggered a massive, unprecedented response from NATO. The strategic map of the world has literally been redrawn. With the recent addition of Sweden and Finland to the alliance, 6 of the 7 Arctic nations are now NATO members. And they are pushing back. In early 2026, NATO launched Arctic Sentry, a sweeping initiative designed to coordinate the military activities of all 32 allies in the High North. The United States is reactivating the 11th Airborne Division, completely retraining them for extreme cold weather warfare. Soldiers are learning to fight in environments where batteries instantly die, engine oil freezes solid, and GPS signals are constantly jammed by Russian electronic warfare systems. The ultimate nightmare for NATO is the GIUK gap. This is the narrow stretch of ocean between Greenland, Iceland, and the United Kingdom. If a global war begins, Russia's northern fleet will surge out of their Arctic bases and try to break through this gap to cut off the vital supply lines connecting North America to Europe. To stop them, the U.S. and its allies are pouring billions into modernizing Arctic defense. They are deploying autonomous underwater drones to patrol the freezing depths. They are investing heavily in Greenland to secure the rare earth minerals required to break China's monopoly on the tech supply chain. But defending the Arctic is not like defending Europe or the Middle East. It is the most hostile operating environment on Earth. Mother Nature is still the dominant force. The logistics of maintaining a military presence in -40-degree temperatures are staggering. We are watching a real-time game of geopolitical chess played on a melting board. The story of the Arctic used to be a story about explorers fighting the elements to reach the North Pole. Today, it is the story of superpowers fighting each other for control of the future. The ice that kept the world safe is disappearing. And in its place, a trillion-dollar highway is being born. Russia is betting its entire economic survival on controlling this new route. China is using its vast wealth to insert itself into a region thousands of miles from its borders, building a polar Silk Road to secure its dominance. And the West is scrambling to rebuild a defense network they thought they wouldn't need after the Cold War. The next great global conflict might not start in the deserts of the Middle East or the jungles of the South China Sea. It may begin in the crushing, freezing darkness of the high north. The Arctic is melting. And the world will never be the same. If you want to understand how this connects to the secret battle happening right now at the very bottom of the ocean, click the video on your screen to watch our deep dive into the vulnerability of undersea data cables. And if you want to stay ahead of the forces shaping our world, make sure you subscribe.